day. Today I'm gonna be discussing chapter 10 of React, Introduction to Redux. So let's get into it. What is Redux? Let's have a look. So Redux is a library for managing application state, especially useful in medium to large apps with complex data flow. So it just basically manages the state of the current data in our application. So the problem that Redux solves, so in apps, basically apps with multiple views, right? They need to stay in sync with the same data but don't share a parent-child relationship. So without Redux, managing shared state across multiple views can lead to event spaghetti, which is basically like tangled, unpredictable updates of data in the application. So Redux manages that data across different views in the app. So the benefits of it include centralized state management, easier unit testing, easy implementation of undo or redo functionality, and predictable and traceable state updates. So mainly managing the state of the data. So an example would be like, think of Redux like a big notebook for a specific application. So you use this notebook to write down who the people are in the application, so their name, age, and ID. When someone new joins, adding a person, right? And then when someone leaves, so removing a person. So it has those specific functionalities, adding a person, removing a person, and stuff like that. So Redux helps you organize this notebook, or you can say this application, and updates it without ever directly changing the original pages. It's like keeping a clean record where every change follows specific rules. So that's basically how Redux works. Let's jump into the code and see how it works. So basically here I have a persons.html, and this is just code that shows the different functionalities of Redux. So firstly, I've imported we connected to the Redux library over here within the script tag. Then here I have a function add person with 3 parameters: ID, name, and age. And within it there's a return where we're returning an object with key value pairs with the value here add. This is basically this function is basically an action creator, so it returns an object describing the action of adding a person. So it's mainly for adding a specific person, and by adding that person we have here this dictionary with person data and all that data for that person, right? That would, well, all the data will be stored in these parameters, right, for that person. So ID, name, and age. Then here we have another action creator that returns an action to remove a person this time, but it does that by using the specific ID. So here the value attached to this key is remove, and then it removes them according to the ID of that person. Then this is initial state variable, which is a dictionary, and in it there's an empty array with the property named persons. So it's basically the initial state of this array, which is set to, is a default setting of no values within it. So it sets the initial state of the Redux store, an object with an empty persons array. So this represents all the people that are in the application or that are added to the application. So the default setting to it is an empty array. So that's the initial state of it. Then we have our function reducer. right? So the reducer function declares how to change the data based on what action is sent. So based on whether you send an action of adding a person to the application or removing a person, um, that is that's what this controls. It decides how to change that data based off those specific actions, right? So within the reducer function, um, or what a reducer function also does is it's basically updating the state of the data essentially in our application. So over here we have state and action as parameters, and then we have an if statement, which is basically saying, well, it's setting the person's array to a default value over here based off this condition. So saying if the state is equal to undefined, right, then it will set the state to the initial state. That initial state is an empty array, meaning that there's no people in the application, or no profiles, let me say, in the array. So then in this if statement over here, this basically is the action here to add a person to the array or to the application. So if action.type equals add, then basically we're gonna add this specific dictionary, which is the person's profile, let me say, with the ID, name, and age, right? And attached to it as values, we have person data.id, .name, and .age. Then we have this return, right, which updates the state, and over here it's basically adding the new person to the array by using this concat over here. So here it says state.persons concat and then new person. So it's adding this new person dictionary, which is the person's profile here, and it's adding that to the person's array, which is set over here. So then that means the initial state, or the state of that data, or the state of that array or the application now changes because we added a new person. Then in this else if block, it's just mainly for removing a person from the array or from the application, and it updates the state when we do that. And here it's finding the person by ID and removing them. So it finds the person by ID by using the filter method over here, and when that happens, it removes the person with the matching ID after using the filter method. Then this is just returning the current state. So if the action isn't recognized, it returns the state as unchanged. So basically here it's this over here creates a Redux store by using create store, right? And it does that using the reducer function, which we've placed over here, and code, and it holds your app's data and updates it when you send actions. Then store, subscribe, show state. Every time the state updates after dispatch, the function show state will run, so it shows the state of that data. Then we have a function here, show state, which was called here. Basically, show state logs the current state to the browser console. So the current state of that data is logged, essentially. Then lastly, within this so over here basically this is where we add this is the code that makes us add the specific people to the application, right? So basically we do that by using store.dispatch. Then we have the add person function, where we'll add basically the ID of the person, and if we go here we can see ID was set over here. we add the name and the age of that specific person, right? So ID, name, and the age, and that is done for 4 people. Then over here we basically use dispatch remove person to remove a specific person from the application. By doing that, we use the ID of that person and remove them. We remove them using the remove person function. And yeah, that's basically all the functionalities that we use in this HTML. Mainly emphasizing how Redux works and how you can add and remove data from the application, and how Redux updates the state of the data. Cool.